Thank you. So my name is Josh Lawrence. Just kind of brief bio. One, I'm going to feel a little constrained up here. I cannot stand speaking where I can't move. One of my professors at TEP, he walked and he talked, and that was much more interesting than the guy that sat behind the podium. I'm our branch operations manager with MBP here in Roanoke. I'm also the project construction manager for Southgate Interchange, which is this little project right there. For Janina and anybody else that goes through Virginia Tech on a regular basis, I'm the one that's creating havoc. Phil, I'm also going to be the one that's going to be creating havoc for you in case in about a month and a half or so. Yeah, bad D word, but it's going to be fun. I'm a professional engineer in Virginia. I was also a professional engineer in Georgia. Gave up that certification because I'm not going back to Georgia. CCM, which is a certified construction manager. Basically, it means I'm a professional in managing projects. Having a PE means I can take a grid test. Doesn't mean that I can necessarily design anything. But these are points of entry for the industry. The PSP, the Planning and Scheduling Professional, which means I manage projects. I know how to run a schedule. I know how to do software. I know the components, some of the intricacies of organizing a project to get it from start to finish. Graduated in '01 with my bachelor's from Virginia Tech. I got my master's also from Virginia Tech. I've done transportation, higher ed, K-12, commercial. I've done a little bit of everything that MBP does. I started off as a co-op student from Virginia Tech. After my sophomore year at Tech, I started with MBP. I worked here after I graduated. My wife, who is an architect, she was getting ready to graduate. We moved down to Atlanta, which was a great experience. But for the 6 months after Katrina, spent some time humping it down Monday morning, getting on a plane, Friday evening coming back, rebuilding a HBCU, Dillard University, down in New Orleans. And fortunately, the company said, yes, we will let you go back home when we wanted to start a family. As far as my STEM career, and getting to some of the key components there, I knew I loved math, I knew I loved science, I knew I wanted to be outside. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as an engineer. I just knew I wanted to be an engineer when I got to Tech. Computers, mechanical engineering or civil. I said, you know what? I can't see it with electrical. I can't. I can see some of it with mechanical, but I'm going to be behind a desk somewhere. I can do civil. I can be anywhere. Okay? I can make the targets instead of making the things that shoot at them. But I started my STEM career in high school, probably before that. There's a Central Shenandoah Valley Governor's School that I started out with. I started learning Excel and all the office programs very, very early in my life. I work for MBP. We're a great operation. We're problem solvers. We're consulting engineers. We're part of the AEC industry. We try to manage and mitigate risks on projects. Okay. We have 60 team members in Roanoke. We have over 280 team members in 11 different branches across the East Coast. What do? We manage projects. Okay, it's programs. We manage projects. And deliver them. We also do construction engineering and inspection, commissioning, retro commissioning, which the CEI and the construction management, I think, is a little bit more intrinsic. We manage projects for owners. Okay? We're out there making sure that they're getting the best bang for their buck. But for, say, commissioning, retro commissioning, that's where we're operating a facility, making sure that the facility is running at peak performance. as well as dispute resolution. That's where a project goes to hell in a handbasket, and we have to be investigators and really identify what happens. Some of the people we work for, Virginia Tech, VDOT, Western Virginia School Building Authority, Town of Blacksburg, Blacksburg Transit, those are the types of clients. So for me to really tell you about my career, what I do, I want to tell you about one of my part-time jobs. So I wear a lot of different hats. So Southgate Interchange is really want to talk about. $38.6 million job. We have 5 major structures, 5 major bridges, 2 overpasses over 460, a tunnel extension for trails, another underpass, and 2 more underpasses for pedestrian and trail traffic. Our bridge program is about $8.6 million, or $8.2 million. We're moving 340,000 cubic yards of dirt and placing about 15,000 linear feet of pipe. And you guys can read it. I don't want to go through all these details, but one of the biggest things that I learned and continue to learn is that it's the personal interactions. Yes, I'm an engineer, but what makes me effective in my mind, what makes me effective is, 1, I charge into anything, but 2, it's how we interface with people. Okay, we can be the most brilliant person in the room, but if we can't communicate effectively with the people, the partners that we have, then what good are we? Okay, so these are all the stakeholders that I have to deal with. Of course, my client, my bosses are VDOT. Okay. But I have a huge stakeholder, Branch Civil. They are the ones that are building the project. Virginia Tech, they haven't contributed any money, but they are certainly a huge stakeholder. Okay, this whole project is building the gateway into Virginia Tech. And as an alum, I have a very big vested interest. But every one of these parties certainly are people that we need to interface with and communicate. Just kind of give you a 30,000 foot view of overall what we're doing. We've got safety improvements. We're trying to reduce the amount of crashes. There's a huge estimate there. We're improving the traffic flow into Tech's campus for special events. We're building a modified diverging diamond, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Well, we're creating opportunities for economic and cultural access. We have Smithfield Plantation, Corporate Research Center, the airport, which is expanding. We're defining some connection points because this road, in probably 20 years, if it ever gets funded, will continue to connect on, maybe into Price's Fork or towards Radford. And then there's the Western Perimeter Road, which will hopefully, if Virginia Tech and VDOT get a couple of logistics worked out, they'll be advertising for some design efforts to build the Western Perimeter Road and really build a framework for future development and expansion. And we have about 2.5 miles worth of trails that we're building for transportation alternatives. So for those of you who have been in the Roanoke Valley area, you've probably gone into Valley View, so you've driven on a modified diverging diamond. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I can see that. I can feel the love for that. It's a very unique element. Okay, but it's very different. So this is application of traffic engineering. One of the biggest challenges you have, and if anybody who's driven on Orange Avenue or trying to get in and around off of 581, you've got so many different weave areas. You've got so many different conflict points. How do you minimize that? Well, this is a novel design. It's kind of a simple two-phase. We have two simple two-phase signals. You don't have a whole lot of congestion or queuing storage, no left turns, better sight distance. But really, this is the key component to it. And this is the design that's been the same way for 50 years of highway construction, okay, and highway design. By just thinking differently, thinking outside the box, one engineer said, you know what if we just put traffic on the opposite side? Cut down on the number of conflict points. And the little details up here, we went from 26 conflict points, all these little dots, down to 14. So that's reduced potential for traffic impacts. Okay? So that's why we got it. So we also have very special conditions for Southgate. We have a huge aesthetic design. We're of course matching the campus architecture. We have environmental challenges. This project was designed about the same time the whole flap about Stadium Woods was going on, making sure we don't impact any old growth trees. As a team, we've had to make sure we don't damage any trees. We have Preston Cemetery, which is an active cemetery, which unfortunately they gave us a heads up that they had a funeral procession about 3 days into a major operation we had undertaken. We had to think on our feet and make a new access point. We have threatened and endangered species. This is the coolest little bird that I think I've ever seen or heard about. It's a loggerhead shrike, and it is an endangered species, smaller than my hand, but it's a bird of prey. And something that I would have never learned about if I had not been on this job, but it gets mice, gets whatever, and you can see it. It's put down onto a thorn. It gets its prey, takes it to a barbed wire, thorn bushes, whatnot, plants it there, and then gets to pick at it. Bizarre, yes, I know. Simple things, it's fun. But we have to protect a whole lot of things. In construction, that's what I get to do. I get to play with a whole lot of variety of elements with civil engineering. We have significant challenges on this project. We're not all structural engineers. I wouldn't expect you to be, but part of bridges, and a lot of people, I'm sure you've sat on a bridge, or hope you've sat on a bridge, and you've felt it move. Okay? Those things move like the devil. Okay? They need to because they need to be able to withstand earthquakes, a lot of other things, a lot of other forces. But we have this nice little beam right here, which is this beautiful precast arch beam. One of, if not the most challenging elements of this project. Precast arch beam is only supported laterally by these dowels that are cast, supposed to be cast into the top of the beams, and that are held in place by the bottom of the deck. The problem is, you've got to cast the deck on top of it. The contractor, to their benefit, they worked very hard and developed a very detailed game plan on how they're going to support the deck and also keep the beam in place. But the challenge on this is a normal overhang. When you're forming an overhang, you have a depth of about that much, about 6 to 8 inches, depending on the forming system, to support the overhang. This little element of concrete over the outside of the beams. Well, we have a 2-inch gap. So, okay, now we have a challenge. How are we going to fix this? We also have a work platform. You have to have your workers be able to get out and around because we're going to be casting wet plastic concrete. They've got to be able to finish it. They've got to be able to do what they need to do, get it consolidated and in place, all the while over a beam that's not supposed to take any live load. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that. This beam is not supposed to take any live load. It's only designed for its own dead load. Whole lot of hand-wringing and challenging scenario because you've got an owner, you've got an architect, you've got a design team, you've got a contractor in construction, particularly with our dispute resolution services, we understand means and methods. That's the contractor's responsibility. That's not something that we can, this is all contract theory. You can't tell them exactly how they're going to build it. They have to come up with it themselves. But when they come up and say, I don't know, then we presented with a whole lot of challenge. But we think we have the solution, or I sure hope we have the solution, otherwise I may be finding different employment. I doubt that, but you know, to me, one of the things, one of my counsels to you is a book that I got as a senior in a professional practice class at TEP. It's The Unwritten Laws of Engineering by W.J. King, ASME Press in 1944. It was not in print for probably 30, 40 years, but then I found it on Amazon about 6 months ago. And I'm sure you deal with this, multi-generational, everybody deals and interacts differently. Boomers operate differently than Gen X operates differently, the millennials operates differently than the students that you deal with now. But the fundamentals are still the same, okay? You have different elements that you have to deal with. I mean, you have to start out, and this is, I'm a detail-oriented guy, so I love this. But to the work I want to highlight, you got to seek understanding. Okay? You got to coach your students to understand first. Don't ask questions first. Just sit and wait. Let me get it out. You know, no matter how menial the task, they got to do their best job. They've got to find a solution. You know, Clark brought this up. You want to find people that are going to constantly just charge in and try to find a solution. Don't just ask the question, what do you want me to do? Have a plan. What do you want to do? How do you think you can solve this problem? And don't flip-flop. We all have bosses. To the team, you got to promote confidence. You got to really challenge people. You got to be able to provide constructive, honest critique as well. Always look for the good rather than bad and shortcomings. This is one I try to focus myself on. I have a tendency to take myself too seriously. You got to let loose, okay? This is actually very intimidating. One of the things that the other element, as I've been sitting here watching and listening and pondering about this, is as an elementary student, I hated speaking in front of a class. Hated it. Okay? When I got into high school, okay, the popular thing to do was, for our school, was be in a concert choir. So I had to get up and sing in front of a group. Okay, you're solo. Oh, 400 people in front of me. Now I've got it. So I lost that very early. Lost that fear of intimidation. Now, for a while, that's a different thing. So I am a little intimidated. But your students have to understand that they're going to fail. They need to fail. Because failure is a big part of learning. Just other things, you know, think on your feet, people skills, presentation skills, you know, I said it earlier, they have to be able to get up and sell themselves, sell their ideas, and challenge them to do that. You know, it's not easy. As a sophomore in high school, if you'd asked me to present ideas, no way. Time and priority management, I'm almost 40 years old, I still don't have it figured out, probably won't for a long time. And I just saw a presentation, this is the other one, know yourself. We cheer on the Rudy stories, right? The guy, the person that perseveres and succeeds. But why? Why do they fight through all that adversity when they can identify what their strengths are and continue to nurture those strengths? To me, that's better, because you're not going to be constantly butting your head and yes, you got to fail, but you got to learn too. You take the short path, and it's not the, I don't know, it's not the easy path, but it's the path of most success. You got to work, you got to read, you got to be self-confident, you can't be arrogant. You got to interact with others. the introverts have to learn how to be a little bit more extroverted. So they need the coaching. And I know that because I am a pure introvert, even though my wife and everybody else that I work around says, no way, no. But it drains me to get up here. So with that,